after an impressive junior year found him in the top 5 of the 2019 IndyPro2000 Championship standings, Stingray Robb seemed to be heading toward the next step of his road to Indy career. But after a bit of soul-searching, found himself on the eve of what would be his 4th IndyPro2000 season.
The decision was made to stay in Indy Pro just because in the last couple of races, we didn't get the results we wanted, and I think that I did a lot more developing in the IndyPro2000 level than I could have in the Indy Lights level. We figured coming back for a second year with Juncos Racing in IndyPro2000 was going to be the best step for me, just to try and develop at that lower price level, and then hopefully get the scholarship to move up. When we left St. Pete, I didn't really have any plans of what to do for the next few months. We thought it was only going to be a few weeks before we came back racing. At Road America, we didn't qualify at all. You know, that qualifying session, our fuel pump went out. And so we had race 1, started dead last, and had to work my way back up through the field, finish 5th, and then that was where we were supposed to start for race 2, based on the lap times. And so for race 2, I ended up coming back up, finished 2nd right behind my teammate. So obviously we had a good car set up, but he was too quick. I couldn't chase him down, but I was glad to get a podium. So it was kind of demoralizing to think about, but I think it was good for me. My mental strength gained a lot, you know, in that first few weeks in the race car. And I think that made me a better driver throughout the year. We were able to take adversity a little bit better, recover a little bit better whenever something went wrong. Race 1, I think I started like 2nd. I was so close to getting that pole. And I ended up finishing that race in 10th. And it was no one's fault but my own. I had 2 offs that race, put myself in bad positions, and I came in after that event and I was just so disappointed with myself. I was like, I've given up. I ended up walking away from the team for a little bit, just kind of out in the trees, out in mid-Ohio, in the park area close to the paddock, and I just took a knee. I was like out there just praying, hoping that I could find an answer of just like, how much more do I have to go through? James 1 came flooding to me. And it was consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds. You know, from that moment on, I felt happy. I mean, I was ready to learn from those mistakes. I remember during race 3, I was sitting in 3rd, watching Daniel Frost and Colin Kaminsky go through all the elevation changes there in mid-Ohio, side by side, for nearly a whole entire half a lap. And then going through Thunder Valley, they ended up making contact and spinning, and it was like the gates just opened up, and it was me just going straight on through. From there on, I was out in the lead the whole entire race. I saw Hunter come in late on. He was very quick at the end of the race, but we were able to make it to the final lap and just cruise across the finish line and get that first win.
This time able to get the job done. Ladies and gentlemen, winner for the first time, Stingray Robb!
People think that the win was the turning point, but it was that 10th place finish that finally set the direction. That win was something special to me. It was like the last 4 years of just building up, all that pressure on my shoulders finally was let go. You know, I get out of my car, hug my mechanic, and the next person in line is my mom, and my dad, and my grandma, and my grandpa. And so having that success is very important to me, but to be able to share that with them, that means so much. Lucas Oil, we actually qualified really well. Cody Swanson, it was his rookie event there, and we went side by side for, I don't even know how many laps it was. It seemed like 30 laps, and I think it just killed my tires trying to keep up with him. He knows that track like the back of his hand. The rest of the race, I was just holding on. I think I ended up getting 6th. Learned a lot though. I think that I did a really good job fighting with Cody. It's just unfortunate that he's that good. And then on to Worldwide Technology Raceway. We qualified okay. I struggled in the opening test sessions the day before the racing started. We ended up 4th. I was pretty happy with that, considering how comfortable I was on the oval. I think just in my driving, we made big, big steps forward. Going into Indianapolis, I was sitting 2nd in points, and so I kind of knew that I had to do something special in order to get that lead past Devlin in the championship. And when we showed up there, I didn't have any great expectations. I just knew that I had to put my car in front of his. And that was exactly what we did. Well, in race 2, we know Devlin's going to be quick. He's going to move up early. And I ended up walking away from him towards the end of the race. You know, I had, I think, like a 2-second lead by the end of the race. And so at that moment, we knew what we had, something special. Race 3 comes around. We were the only team with new tires on. And just right from the start, ran away with it. It was unbelievable. Race 1 wasn't great, but I ended up finishing 4th in that event. And we adapted a lot for race 2, but we saw the rainstorm came in and we ended up just doing a few corners before the race was red flagged and then postponed to later in that day. I stayed out front the whole time. Parker Thompson was on me like the entire race. I remember in the closing laps, I was just trying to get the best lap times I could, qualifying kind of laps, and ended up pulling away from him a little bit. Same thing, just ended up dominating that race, wire to wire. We had the official series test a couple weekends before the race, and we were not looking good at all. We know a couple other teams had a lot more new tires than we had, and so they got to develop their qualifying car a little better, which was very important at New Jersey. Going into the races, we were just going to work on the setup, focus on the test day before, making sure that we had the car dialed. Well, in test 1, we ended up blowing up the motor. Put a hole right in the side of the block, and from there on, it was just getting the car back together in order to be on track that following morning. Put a really good time in, and then in qualifying, I think I qualified 2nd by like 8 thousandths behind Devlin. Unfortunately, started off pole for race 1, and again, triple header, tire strategy came into play. Devlin was the only one that was going to start on new tires, and so we started to go out on used. I ended up finishing that race in 2nd, set some pretty good times considering, and ended up starting the next day for race 2, set the qualifying, and qualified 1st by I think 3/10 of a second, which was absolutely amazing. From there on, it was like, all right, we're good. I was only like 4/10 off the pace with the used tires, so when we went with new, it was like night and day difference. We just set a crazy fast lap time, and then in race 2, we still had that new tires left over that no one else had. And so same thing as Indy, you know, with that new tire run, you're able to step out to the lead really early and then run away with it. I think I started to realize what was within reach for us. Then race 3 came along and it was a wet race again. Halfway through the race, I think I was sitting 5th or 6th. And my teammate and Devlin ended up crashing out together, and they were my 2 closest competitors. So we knew at that time I had clinched the championship, just as long as I finished like 6th or 7th. The team got on the radio and they told me like, hey, if you stay in this spot, you got the championship. So I was pretty excited about that. But then I realized, I'm like, well, I'm catching 3rd place. Get on the radio, I asked the guys, I'm like, hey, can we go for a podium here? They're like, go, get around them. I ended up chasing Hunter McElroy down, made a pass on the outside of turn 1 in the rain, finished on the podium. That was just kind of like the final nail in the coffin. Ended up clinching the championship in that event. I was overwhelmed. You know, I don't think I realized what it all meant. I think I was most excited just to be able to drive Indy Lights next year. I wasn't so much worried about winning the championship as much as it was just a full ride. Now we can focus on developing me as a driver into that next level, which is IndyCar. You know, this year was one of those years that I don't think I'll ever forget. Something special.
Although he clinched the title a race early, Stingray saw continued success with a race win and 2 new track records at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. With a new season rapidly approaching, comes new challenges and competition. As Stingray Robb climbs to the final step of the Road to Indy ladder, his sights are set ever more clearly on his dream, a seat among the best of the best in the NTT IndyCar Series.